I'd say welcome at the Chipheads podcast. We're doing a very special episode today.
Yeah, at Chipwrecked.
At Chipwrecked, which is a music chiptune festival in Denmark, on an island in the middle of nowhere in the Baltic Sea.
Exactly.
But there's more than 100 people here this year, and it's becoming really huge.
Yeah.
And it's an extra special episode because we've got a guest here with us.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, would you like to introduce yourself, or shall
sure.
we?
Shall we?
I can do it if you want.
I've written a speech.
Yeah.
No,
You've hi, I'm Marjorie. You may know me as Chiptography, and I started photographing chiptune shows about 13 years ago, starting with the first Blip Festival in 2006 in New York City.
Awesome.
And it's become a passion of mine.
It's been that much fun that you've been doing it for 13 years.
Yes, it has.
Oh, that's cool. You didn't even know that. Oh. Yeah, so we figured we might, we could have asked any artist that's playing here, but why not ask someone who's flown all over the world, seen so many chip artists.
And came to Chipwrecked especially for from New York, having what do you call that? Like when you're
like a mission.
Sleep deprived.
Oh, yeah, jet lagged. Yeah. I mean, it's worth it. It's my passion. I'm excited to be here. It's a really unique festival.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the festivals I've done are, indoors in cities, and I was a little nervous because I didn't saw it was an island, and I had no idea how to get there. But
3 days of photography.
And it's quite long too. Yeah. But totally worth it. And I came. Yeah. I definitely wanted to come and document what's going on here. I've been following it for the past 2 years, and it seemed pretty cool.
It's growing and growing.
Yeah, it's very, very unique. I mean, I definitely recommend anyone to come out and check the show out, because it's not like any other festival I've ever photographed.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah. I mean, you said it's almost more like a chiptune conference.
Yeah, it is absolutely a chiptune conference. It's just chip musicians, the amount of chiptune artists that are here, overwhelm the amount of visitors.
Yeah, well, the first year was about 50 or more chip artists than visitors, but slowly the amount of visitors has been increasing over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be a point where it actually tips over.
Yeah, it takes over. Yeah.
But it's so much fun, and there's also workshops. Like this morning there was a build your own synth workshop, and the first year there was a mod your Game Boy workshop. So Anders, the organizer, really does I think a good job at not just getting chip acts in here, but also workshops and other stuff. And today there was a presentation from Ehrlich Project, who's doing a new tracker.
Yeah, bin tracker.
Tracker. So this is the news from the community part of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know, because I thought it was really cool. It's basically what he's building is a tracker that can track anything. So the problem now is that if you'd like to track, for example, I don't know, a random console, you need the tracker specifically written for that console. But what he's doing is building one editor, and basically when you start writing a song, you say, okay, this is going to be, I don't know, Impulse Tracker or LSDJ or whatever, and then the editor says, okay, that's cool, we're going to do 4 tracks, and you've got the pearls and another pearls and whatever, and these are the limitations, so you can learn one workflow and just work within bin tracker. So he's still working on it, but I thought that was a really cool and good idea.
So the one tracker to rule them all, basically.
Conquer them all,
yeah. Oh, that's sick. Yeah.
And this is the same guy that did Houston Tracker, so he knows what he's doing.
Right.
So that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, they're also doing that kind of stuff here at Chipwrecked, so.
It kind of reminds me of the old days, but before, when festivals or even smaller music shows, it would be a lot of just the musicians coming and celebrating each other. So someone would be playing on stage, and they'd come off, and then they'd be dancing in the crowd, and it would mostly be all these artists and musicians, and it was really a nice culture and a nice environment to be around. Right. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Because I remember going the first year, and I was so nervous because I was in the same lineup as Defense Mechanism and all these Demo Scene, Time Machine, all these artists I listened to, and then you're dancing at their set, and then one moment and the other they're dancing your music.
Exactly.
These are actually normal people, regular human beings, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's where we actually met, at the first Chipwrecked.
Oh wow.
Stein and I.
Cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Memories.
Yeah, memories. And like, there's so much people that I met the first year that also came the second, and now the third, and probably the fourth as well.
Then it becomes a reunion of sorts.
It becomes a a lot of chip parties are reunions. Because, like, it's not that big of a community, so every time I go to a chip party in Europe, there's plenty of people I already know. But like Chipwrecked feels like coming home. I've heard a lot of people say that feels like coming home and like meeting your family once every year.
Yeah. Well, as it starts to draw more international guests, it definitely will feel like that.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's how Blip Festival was for me. I would meet people from around the world, from Europe, from Asia, from different parts of the United States I would never have met in person if it weren't for those few days a year. And then you'd see them, sometimes not every year, but whenever you see them again, it is kind of feeling of family.
So I'm very grateful for like organizers and people that do this. Anders, but also like
absolutely.
Jonas and France and Rocco.
Yeah. It's a tough job. It's a tough gig.
It is. Yeah, I can only imagine so. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about now?
So you must have you mentioned Blipfest, for example.
Yeah.
Which is sadly is no more.
I mean, yes and no. I think it ended at the right time when it could preserve such a high standard. You know? So then when it ended, it actually gave the world the opportunity. They kind of passed the baton on and said, okay, now you make a festival in your hometown. So then festivals popped up all over the place, and Philadelphia and Manchester, and it really kind of sparked something.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it for that, and I appreciated that they knew when to call it quits and ended on a high note. So
yeah,
because how long were they going for?
I think 6 years. I believe it was about 6 years. Started in New York, and then they came out with editions in both Tokyo and Melbourne, and then that became Square Sounds.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Because I'm relatively new to the community, so.
I didn't
know this.
You're more than welcome. Like everybody gets welcomed such heartily.
It's a really warm community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started at Blipfest.
Started the very first Blip Festival.
Very nervous.
I've never heard of chiptune. I didn't even really know what electronic music was. I wasn't a music photographer. I was fresh out of college. I went to school for photography.
So chiptune, like your photography passion got you into chiptune, not the other way around.
Yes and no. When I was studying photography, I was a fine art photographer. I photographed mostly nature. But I also, when my teachers said, what do you want to do? What kind of photographer do you want to be? And I knew I wanted to photograph other artists doing work, but I didn't exactly know how to verbalize it and what that looked like.
Right.
So I started doing some photojournalism, but that didn't also feel right. And then when I went to a concert and I started photographing musicians on stage, I felt like, okay, this feels right. So I kept on going back, and it really gave me a safe place to experiment with my camera. I took lots of crappy pictures. Some of it I look back at it and I'm like, oh, it's so bad.
What did I do?
Well, it's it's the learning process, but it was a really nice, safe place for me to learn and experiment and really create my own ways of taking pictures. And then I started photographing for actual concerts outside of chiptune, and I hated it.
Because you don't do that. It's just chiptune.
Well, maybe a few years ago, I started I have friends in New York City who work for eMusic or other magazines, and so they said, hey, I have a show coming up. Do you want to go photograph it? We'll pay you. And I thought, oh, right, this is what I've been preparing for. And I got there, and it's just the passion was gone. So I was very, very conflicted about what to do with it. Should I stop photographing concerts?
Altogether?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I didn't know. And I think it was BitShifter. I was talking to him about it at a bar as I was telling him, this kind of internal dilemma. And he just assured me that I could leave and come back whenever I wanted. I would always be welcome. And I just thought that was such an amazing point of view and a real way of lovingly say, just
the very fact that
follow
he
your
gave
heart.
that answer.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and it was because of that I kind of chilled out and I said, well, I'll figure out my professional career, and it doesn't have to be exactly what I do for my passion, but this is my passion, and I know it, so I want to keep going.
Awesome. 30 years later, here we are.
Yeah. I mean, cool. I hope it doesn't end. I think it's just I'm gonna go where the music is. Yeah. That's why I'm here. Yeah, that's why I'm going to go to Big Grid in October, and I'm going to Japan in September.
Which is where Big Shifter will also be.
Yes.
It's going to be cool.
Yes, he will.
And I'm on the same lineup.
Ooh, so self-promotion there.
When was your, what was your first international gig?
First international gig was probably the last Blip Tokyo in 2012. Okay. I had actually done a Kickstarter because I was a dog walker. That was how I made money.
Wow.
Before that, I actually worked in the corporate world in a bank at Barclays Capital. So it was a bit of a jump, but I've had lots of career changes over time.
Yeah.
And but as a dog walker, I couldn't afford to go to Japan. If I don't walk dogs, I don't make money. Then how do I even pay my rent? So I had just published my my book, my 5 years of Blip Festival, and I put up a Kickstarter with my friend Jessen, who runs a chip show in New York City called I.O. Chip Music,
right.
Which is very interesting. And he helped me raise money to buy my ticket and, have enough money to pay my rent and go to Japan and document it. And it was incredibly special because I felt that I was there. I was kind of like making my own way there, but it was also because the scene wanted me there. I had people who weren't even going to Japan donating to my Kickstarter. Yeah. People who I've never met donating to my Kickstarter. And that was just, it told me that my work was valuable.
Mm. That kind of reminds me of like how Chipwrecked got started too. Mm-hmm. Like lots of people chimed in. There's lots of people volunteering here as well, because without all the volunteers, Anders definitely wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it started with the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I donated.
Yeah,
me as well.
Like,
you didn't come. Yeah.
I bought a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, if you
it blew up the first time. Like it was supposed to be a very tiny thing, and it completely got out of hand. Like. So much that Anders was like, I'm not sure how to handle this. Yeah. But like it grew to this the wonderful camping site and music space that we have now. So
Chiptune barn.
Yeah,
Chiptune barn.
With their very own Chiptune wine.
Yeah, the wine is a thing. He brews his own wine. And it's very tasty, but it's also very dangerous.
Yeah. High alcoholic content.
But
and Porsches in half liters.
There was
half liters. So
we always warn people there, and you like mind the wine.
Yeah.
Be careful with the wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's what I love. Like yesterday, I don't remember who said it, but I was talking to someone who said, I don't even know if Anders makes money on Chipwrecked or not. But even if he didn't. And he told people, I'm sure, like the entire chip community would just chime in and like break that even.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about the community is we're very supportive. Even if you can't make a show, but you see something is happening, a lot of people will give what they can.
Yeah, right.
Whether it's like $5 or $25.
Yeah.
So.
Or a data bundle, because suddenly you've got a live stream because someone decided to just live stream on their phone.
Yeah.
Nemesis.
Nemesis.
Wayne Tan, the guy from Singapore.
So there's people from Singapore, Canada, Spain. Yeah. Last year we had you're from the US, obviously. US. So it's Argentina this year as well.
Exactly.
So it's getting big.
It's getting big.
Now we only need Australia, like Oceania, the North Pole. Are there chiptune artists on the? If there are chiptune artists on the North Pole, let us know.
Hit us up, man. Hit us up.
And then he's got all 7 continents.
Yeah. But getting back to your photography, like what's your preferred mode of working? Is there a specific vision you have, or a specific look you're going for, a specific aesthetic?
So we all see the world differently through our own lenses, through our own eyeballs. And I definitely think that I'm not objective when I photograph. I want to convey my passion and love for the artist. So I always try to find their angle. I'll study the way they move to their music.
Right.
And figure, and when I photograph a new person, I do it for a while because I'm still figuring out how they look good and their good angles. And And then when I photograph them again and again and again, I may know that, oh, this person gets quite sweaty by the end, so be sure to get their pictures in the beginning. Or maybe their glasses slip down, so before a set, I will give them a little wax to put beneath their glasses so then their glasses don't slip down.
Right.
I'll also light them, and I'll consider the visuals that are being used. If I know the visualist and I know their color palette, I'll try to do complementary colors on my little table lights if I can, if it's available. But other than that, I try to make them look good. And of course, I'm taking thousands of photos. Anything that I feel is not flattering, I just delete, I destroy. I don't even save it in an archive. I want everyone to look good, and I want my pictures to represent them. And I think that's been pretty successful. I think that's why a lot of people trust me.
Cool.
That's
so
awesome.
you've got like a database, like a notebook of every artist that you've ever photographed at home, with like notes on them.
Well,
it's in your head.
It's all in my head for the most part. I know when I photograph a lot of the artists in the U.S., I know when they're gonna like stick their hand out on a certain part of a song, and I know that that's gonna look really cool in a picture. So I'll know when they're gonna start, like jumping up and down stage. So maybe I'll run to the back so I can get the crowd. Also raising their hands.
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes I just get lucky, and I have this intuition that, I should go to the side, or maybe I should crouch down, and I'm constantly thinking when I'm there and how to make a good picture. And I go in with the expectation of getting 2 or 3 really good pictures.
Right.
But if I leave with like 10 different types of pictures, then I'm happy, from the side angle, or get the light in a certain way.
Right.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you're explaining that, because like sometimes it looks as if you're just, not you specifically, just like, I'm gonna take a photograph here. But like it's a very mental process of like deciding at what moment, what people are gonna do.
It definitely is. And I've learned to hold my camera in a way where I don't even, if I can hold it up above my head, and through just practice, I've learned how to frame it and shoot.
I've seen you do that.
Yeah, and it's not just random. I've actually like developed this method of trying to get a little, because I want to get a little bit above the crowd. Yeah. I'm pretty tall, so maybe in a place where like in Japan, I usually don't have to do it as much. But here, there's a lot of tall people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's also like the venue. If it's small and dark, or if there are windows, I have to consider everything when I'm setting up.
If they're wearing lead face masks.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there something that we as artists shouldn't do?
Or maybe
like please stop like X.
Water bottles on the table. Please.
Remember that.
Please no. I usually now I have enough. I'm very shy, first of all. So now I'm actually kind of comfortable with everyone enough to say, hey, is this your water bottle? Do you mind just keeping it on the ground when you play? Yeah. Just because it doesn't look good in the picture. And these pictures I'm writing the visual history of chiptune. And so I don't want there to be water bottles in my pictures.
Yeah, the visual history of water brands. Water brands.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind other branded drinks like beers or things like that. And usually it's off to the side, but a water bottle really doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so spread the word.
I'm glad I asked the question, Don't put your water bottle on the stage.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, everything's fine, and I work with, if someone's like, oh, should I stand here or do this? And like, you do you, I'll figure out my job, you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
so we don't need to think about a specific pose you'd like to have.
No, I mean, I think the only other thing is if I know someone's going to go into the crowd, I want to know ahead of time, because then I can kind of plan when I can like get on the stage and shoot them. So that's always nice to know. Or if a whole band is going to be down on the ground, I want to light them.
Right.
So I think it was the last bit grid, I knew that there was going to be a band playing, I think, second. And so I had this LED strip, and I just had it ready to go. So I went during the turnover time, and I wrapped the drummer in this LED, and it actually worked out nicely. You can see everyone.
But you can only do that if you're prepared.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to pull that off if I didn't know ahead of time. So.
Oh, that's good.
But for the most part, especially with a festival like this where everything is so low key and there's a lot of time between sets, it's so much more relaxing because I can go and I see someone setting up and I maybe tweak a light here and there and then I'm done and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go.
I'm going to have a drink.
Yeah.
Because you saw it was really different compared to the US where there's a really small switch over time. And
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get as many acts in the small amount of time that we have.
Yeah.
And it's often highly curated as well. And, there's, 5-minute turnaround if you're lucky. And then there's, always issues with setting up and sound check. So then that 5 minutes, actually, you're trying to squeeze that into 30 seconds. So I'm like there, I'm working really hard and like put my camera down and I'm like moving my lights and getting really sweaty. So it's...
Sounds like a lot of work.
It can be a lot of work, but it's fun and it's worth it.
But I mean, I think Chipwrecked in that sense an exception as well, right? Because
Yes.
like every artist just has a 1 hour slot, and pretty much like no one actually fills a complete hour. It's mostly 40 to 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So that gives you a lot of change over time. But if you go to, for example, Big Rid or Eindbaas, there's also less of a like period between acts that you've got,
Right.
obviously, because well, I mean they've got to fill their evening as well.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, the crowd, especially if they don't have a place to go, it would be awkward to stand around
That's
and
true.
wait.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of keep the party going as much as possible. So I respect that. Yeah. But here it's very so low key. Everyone's like, okay, I'm gonna go stop by my tent. I'm gonna go grab some of Andrew's special sauce and
You haven't had that yet.
No.
A special dish. That's really good.
Is it?
Anders has a special vegan like ramen noodle soup, which is really tasty.
Oh, that
So
sounds good.
we're gonna eat that afterwards.
that's the plan.
That's the plan. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that we have or stuff that we'd like to discuss?
What's the kind of chiptune you like? You like
That's a
the
good
more
question.
melodic stuff, or you like power pumping, or like the noise stuff, like
And don't say I like a whole chip tune.
Oh, why not?
because it's such
I-
Because
cliche.
everybody
Well,
loves all
I
chip tune.
enjoy all the diversity. I mean, that's what really makes it so interesting is that you can have something that's on the, like death metal followed by someone, on the banjo or, maybe something more jazzy or something more classical.
Is there a banjo chip tune?
Okay, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, you got to look up Bud Melvin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
of course.
he's awesome. I haven't seen him forever. I miss him. But if you're watching this, I miss you.
Anyway, it's really diverse. There's all kinds of artists.
Yeah, so there's
That's
a lot
good.
to, and that brings you, if you just listen to one type of music, you don't really get to grow or experience different things. So I like listening to something I've never listened to before. Yes, there are certain ones that are kind of more suited to my style and something that gets me to move a little bit more relaxed or I find pleasing, but I also really enjoy something that is very different from anything I would ever seek out on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get to experience loads of like new weird kind of stuff. as
Yeah,
well.
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the Britney Spears stuff and
Right. I mean,
Aguilera.
it's you usually go to a show and it's all the same type of music. So you're going to like a punk show or you're going to
Hip hop.
right,
Yeah.
and it's the same. Everything's the same. And you can, if you like it, that's awesome. But here you can really experience something different.
Yeah, I think that's why people say chiptune isn't necessarily a genre in its own. It's more of an instrument, and you can make jazz or metal or EDM or whatever with
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I really like that. Yeah.
And there's plenty of diversity at Chipwrecked here. We've seen doom metal chip, and we've seen breakbeat or breakbeat heartbeat,
Yeah.
and we've seen like melodic Swedish Euro pop chip, and there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you mind if I talk about my new project?
Oh, I'd love to
Yeah.
Is
hear it.
there a new project?
So I have a new
Marjorie?
project.
This is like we didn't know about this really.
No, we didn't.
Go ahead.
So I haven't told a lot of people because I'm just starting it, and I guess now I'm committing to it. So I've been photographing chiptune for about 13 years now, and I've also around the world, and I want to now take my photography outside of the music venue and do portraits of all the I say all, but as many artists as I can, and also do audio interviews.
Awesome.
And ask them questions about chiptune a little bit,
Yeah.
of course, but about their life, where they grew up, what their family is like, what their job is, if there's anything they feel passionate about, any world issues that they want to talk about. I'm game for all of that.
That's so interesting.
Right.
Because I think that every single person in the chiptune community is a very unique cloth in the chiptune thread, or a unique thread in a chiptune cloth.
Yeah.
So I want to really highlight that and bring these stories to life and show all these people in their homes, jobs, or maybe with their family, their kids, doesn't matter, with their dog. And I want to show that side of them because I really love photographing them on stage, but I also know there's a lot more to it.
Yeah,
so.
you see an artist on stage, but you see a human at their homes.
Right, right. And you talk to people at these festivals, they're interesting, but I don't think anyone who sees my pictures really gets a sense of,
the humanness behind.
Well, right. Yeah. And there's a wasp that is in love with me. But
there's lots of wasps this year.
So for now, I kind of am giving it a working title of Beyond the Chip, and I've reached out to a few artists. I've started already doing interviews and photo shoots in New York. Next week I'll be in Seattle for another show, and also I'm photographing three artists over there. And I'm giving myself, I think, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years to get this together, and then hopefully publish it in a book. I'd love to do a gallery type of show where there's both the live music photography and these portraits with some kind of audio component from these interviews.
That sounds amazing.
So it's a big project, but I'm really, really excited about it. So I will be reaching out to
artists. Awesome. And what amount of artists are you thinking of doing in those 2 or 3 years?
As many as possible. Okay. It does take time between traveling. Even the few people I've started with, the interview lasted maybe an hour and a half, and then we're going to arrange to another day for the photograph because at their job, and it's going to be a process. But I'm really inspired and excited for it, so it's got me excited again.
It's another angle.
It sounds enticing. Like I want it to be finished already. I want to see it all and see the photos, hear the stories, and get a more well-rounded picture of the whole chiptune scene.
Can you imagine if I had done this 13 years ago? With the people I was photographing. Yeah. I didn't know them well enough, and I didn't even know myself well enough.
Right.
But I could do this now, and maybe I can do that in another 20 years as a follow-up, and just follow everybody in their story.
I really like this. It's a new angle on the chronicling the chip scene, chip community.
Yeah. I have to give credit to Mike Goodman from New York, who is DIY Destruction. He does visuals, and he and I were smoking hookah one night, and he was like, "You know what you should do?" And I was like, "Really? Can I do this? I'm taking this idea." And he's like, "Go for it."
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. Perhaps you could do some the same with some visual artists as
well.
Oh,
I'm doing musicians, visual artists, organizers and super fans.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
super fans.
Fans.
We've got a fan of Eindpaas who had it.
They're special too.
Yeah.
I think they're part of the story.
They are, without fans and people that come to.
Yeah, and I do try to incorporate photographing the audience when I can. Sometimes it's not possible because of lighting, but when you get a good shot of because the audience sometimes is so into it, and there's so much joy in their faces. Those are my favorite pictures, where you can see
Mineo
them
dancing in a crowd.
Yes.
Fully nude,
Or you see someone in the background and they're just that's really my favorite type of picture. And it's unfortunately not possible in every environment. But you when you see it, then you're like, oh, this is a special moment.
I got to dive in.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there ever a moment that you're taking pictures, but you really have the urge to just go and dance and have fun, but you need to take this shot because now's the right moment?
So I only put my camera down once at a show, and that was at Breakfest, which happened in Lexington, Kentucky, which I've never been to that part of the U.S. before. And when the plane was going down, I was like, we're landing in a field of horses.
Apparently that's normal around there.
And the guy next to me was like, yeah, welcome to Kentucky.
Wow.
And it was at this bar, and there was a whole bunch of it was a bourbon bar, and the ceiling was really low, and they had this ceiling fan going, and I crowd surfed. Almost got my face cut off, but it was really, really fun. And I think I was just there with friends from Philadelphia, and it was such a good time. I just felt like part of it at that point.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that was the one time I put my camera down by one of the visualists. I was like, I'm going to go dance for this one.
Well, you got to treat yourself sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's hard for me because taking pictures is so much fun. That's my fun.
Okay.
You know, so I don't want to miss out on that opportunity.
Because it reminds me of like, if as a composer, as a like musician, like you don't always have the opportunity to actually listen to a lot of music yourself, because like you can't listen to music at the same time as creating it. So I was figuring, like, do you have that same problem? Like, can you enjoy the chip music while you're working and taking photographs and like thinking about angles and lighting and stuff?
So yes and no. Sometimes I don't get to experience the show, especially if I'm a little stressed with a tricky lighting situation. If there's too much fog is another thing. The smoke, it really, especially when you have a large visual screen, it will just everything, all the pixels, you just can't see them. It becomes a cloud of lit smoke, and then my camera doesn't focus. So those are times when I'm like, I'm really struggling to make a good picture. And then I won't have as much fun. But for the most part, I have fun when I'm shooting. And then when I edit the photos, usually I will try to find that musician's music online on Spotify or Bandcamp, and I'll listen to them.
That's fun.
When I edit their pictures, or I'll just listen to like my favorite artist of that night or something like that. So it's kind of relive it again. Yeah, and the streams are great. I think this, because I can go back to those streams and look at them and actually have a calm moment when I'm experiencing the show too. So I often do that.
Oh, that's cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody who does streams.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Square Sounds Tokyo 2017, but I kind of was, because there was a stream and I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Oh, I remember setting my alarm to wake up like at 4 a.m. to catch
like
C-Trix set at a Tokyo Square Sounds I couldn't be at, and it was so worth it.
It was the surprise guest, right?
It was so long ago.
But everybody, pretty much everybody knew.
Let me see. It's 2019 now.
Yeah.
So 17 was a Chipwrecked year for me. No, I was at Square Sounds 2016 and 18. But yeah, so
do you ever go to chip shows like just without a camera?
Never.
Just as a visitor?
No.
It's like tonight is not for photography. I'm just going to.
No, it's my passion. I would feel very anxious and uncomfortable being at a chip show without my camera. It's just watch your. Sorry.
They're both dead.
They're dead.
We're on a.
We're winging it.
We're winging it. We've got a special cameraman here.
Our backup cameraman.
Thank you so much, man.
So the backup cameraman is my husband, Nile, and his Instagram is all pictures of me taking pictures at chip shows.
That's really meta.
Yeah, you should check them out sometime.
So that means that we should start making pictures of Nile, making pictures of you making pictures.
That would be a trip. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. So if you don't know my work, you can find me on Instagram at Chiptography, or Facebook Chiptography. I usually post all my pictures to Flickr because it keeps them in nice organized albums, and then I'll post a link into the show's Facebook page and all. I post it on Twitter. I'm not very good at Twitter, so I don't make promises with that.
But yeah, sometimes, occasionally a tweet.
Occasionally I'll remember, I should put something on Twitter. I don't know how to do it.
And when can we expect like stuff from your new project? Like how far is that along? Is there
brand new.
You said about 2-3 years, right?
Right. I think I will probably start. I'm going to redesign my website and start a blog on there where I'll post some previews.
Yeah, because you're going to release everything at once when you're done, or is this going to be?
It's still something I have to find a publisher for and work out all the little kinks. But for now, I really want to create the content and then probably put it on a blog with some notes or even parts of the interview.
Really
so
cool.
it's very time consuming, but it's
definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And I have another question. I already got it answered, but I wanna ask it on the podcast as well. Like you're making great photos of artists. How are the artists able to license your pictures?
Oh, yeah.
If they want to use it for anything.
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. So my general rule or policy is, please use my pictures for whatever you want to promote yourself. I'm so honored that my photos are, or what you want to represent you. But I do want credit at Chiptography, tag me or what have you. And especially if it's being published, I don't need to know about every Facebook profile picture, but if you're publishing it as album art, you're making it into a t-shirt, or you're putting it into a publication, please let me know, because I'd like to know where my work is. And I will most likely come to you someday asking you for a photo release so I can take those pictures and put that into my own book. So I think it's understood
fair,
as,
fair deal,
use my pictures now, I'll use your photos later, so
cool.
I don't do this for, you guys are not making money, if anything. And it's an expensive endeavor, right? Making music, publishing it, putting it online, producing it, even your podcast, that takes time. So, right? So, no one's in it for the money. I'm not going to nickel and dime people for pictures. If you want to make a donation to me, that's on, that's nice, because, I do travel a lot for this, and that adds up. But I really have no expectation of that.
That's so nice, though.
Yeah. I really feel that I love what everyone's doing, and I'm taking the pictures for you.
Yeah. In a sense, that's your way of giving back to the chip community.
Yes. Yes, exactly. This is a perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're about to wrap up, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think they're starting music again.
Yeah,
So.
I'm hearing
and I'm getting hungry.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Well,
thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming to Chipwrecked, and thank you for coming to Chipheads.
Yeah.
And thank you for being awesome.
Oh, no. Thank you, guys.
All right. I say let's wrap up.
Yep.
Yeah.
With our favorite end liner, one liner.
You go ahead.
We'll be back in a bit.